Yo, what it do? My name is Anyo. Welcome to another video of me just talking some random shit about cameras. Today I want to talk about the two main cameras I'm using right now a lot. One is the Blackmagic 6K Pro and the other is Fujifilm GFX 100 One of my main workhorses camera is the one that I'm using right now, which is the Fujifilm X-H2S. We're going to talk about that another time, but as of right now, one thing I want to talk about for sure is like compare the two, what works for me. And hopefully this kind of, if you're in this also situation as well, hopefully this can kind of make sense or at least give you some guidance on what to use the camera for. I don't know. As a solo filmmaker, one of the biggest hurdles that we all face is kind of like, budget, obviously. I don't try to cheapen out because, one, if you buy cheap equipment, it will kind of show, whether through time or just kind of how rugged they are and how well they can be used. And for me, again, being a solo filmmaker is portability and size. And obviously, the functionality of the camera itself. Like, I want the camera to be working at all times and having no problem. Now, that being said, these cameras have no problem with being used. I feel like one thing I've had though, very recently, I had a job very recently, is my first time also happening to me, is actually with this guy here. In all honesty, like this camera looks beautiful. Like, just building it and showcasing like how big it can get, even with the bat box and all the accessories and stuff. Full transparency, I was shooting a small interview kind of thing. I was recording. I saw the the time code running. It's red, blah blah. It's recording, and then when I stopped recording, it only recorded 2.5 minutes of that entire interview, which was the interview was like 5 minutes or something. Luckily, I was recording audio through a separate recorder, which is actually a separate camera. It was just a B cam essentially, and luckily we still have footage and audio for that. But the main camera obviously only have 2.5 minutes, and the good bits were at the very end. I'm not saying all Blackmagic do this. There's probably some faulty things. I think what happened is a battery issue. I had a V-mount running and it was, I think, 1 bar. I think Blackmagic doesn't like being pushed in terms of like power. I guess rule of thumb for all the Blackmagic users out there, just because it happened to me, and if this hasn't happened to you yet and you're a Blackmagic user, replace the battery when it's 2 bar or 3 if you're being really careful. I wouldn't really leave it to chance at this point because that's important footage that you need to get, and if you're getting paid especially, then that's a client's footage. Again, luckily we managed to sort it out. We got it. But yeah, I think that's the only main issue that I had with like functionality with this camera. Aside from that, is just kind of like how you use it. And of course, I've had no problem using this. There's some smaller things inside the camera that I'll talk about, but aside from that, like it works perfectly. As I mentioned before, budget, size, functionality. Functionality, what I talked about, I want to talk about size. I feel like it's very apparent. This is where I give the GFX the win for this. The GFX smallest size is this, right? You can get a lens, body, battery. If you want an audio, you can get a shotgun mic, but if you really just want to run it like this, it's fine. It can go bigger than this, so it can get as big as a Blackmagic if you need to put a V-mount battery, if you need to put a matte box, if you need to put blah blah blah, whatever. As for the Blackmagic, however, this is pretty much how, without the top handle and without the shotgun mic, and without the cage, this is still how big it is. So no matter what you can do, this is the smallest the Blackmagic will get. Whereas this is actually a pocket camera. Whereas this, first of all, they need to change the names on this goddamn thing because this is not a pocket cinema camera. This is a goddamn bag. I mean, not gonna lie, the insides of it is great, but it's just, again, for me, size is one of the biggest things, especially if you're a solo, you don't really have anybody else. For me, having minimal footprint on set or on location, whatever you're shooting, especially if you're solo, I feel like it's the best thing. The third thing, which is budget, Blackmagic wins this because without rigging it all up, this is gonna run half the price of that for this. There's a reason why people call this poor man's Aria or poor man's cinema camera. Don't quote me on that. I heard that somewhere. I don't know who said it. I'm running with it. It's great quality. It shoots 6K. B-RAW, which is great for color editing, and just especially if you're using DaVinci Resolve, it is perfect combo. Easiest way to handle B-RAW. You know, with B-RAW, you have more power in terms of editing. You can adjust exposure, you can adjust ISO setting, you can adjust white balance, whereas the Fuji shoots F-Log, Apple ProRes, which is great. It definitely has more flexibility compared to HLG or whatever the other formats that other mirrorless cameras use. Compared to B-RAW, this is a lot stronger. And also, again, you can really push and pull the images from this camera compared to that one just because of the capabilities of it. But with this having the price range of, I think right now I saw one used in marketplace to Canada. This is going for 2,600, 2,500 Canadian. You know, that's just the body alone, plus this lens is probably 800, so you're probably gonna run at least 30 something 3,000 something dollars. This camera lens alone is $3,000. If you're buying the native lens GF Fuji lenses, it's gonna run you $3,000. And the body alone costs $9,000 plus tax. You're running at least $15,000 easy. You know what I mean? Like, would this be something people wanna go for? I mean, again, it really depends on what you wanna do, what you wanna shoot. Are you a hybrid photographer that shooting commercials and wanna use this as a B cam for like an ARRI Alexa? Whereas this, you can make this as your A cam and still have budget for other stuff, right? Like, and you know, even renting, this is probably gonna be more compared to that. Obviously, you need a lot more to like make this work. But run and gun scenario, if you want to make this just work as is, you know, you have a running time of at least 40 minutes nonstop turning on the camera. Whereas this, it can last you for an hour or two. Is that really a big difference? What you do? Who knows, right? I saw one YouTuber, I think his YouTube place is called Of Two Lands, and I'm pretty sure he just uses the Blackmagic to travel, and he does documentaries and stuff like that, which is amazing. But I'd rather carry a smaller camera and also have other stuff to carry with me, especially because I'm a b-boy. I also have to bring sneakers, other clothes to, you know, especially when I sweat after getting down, blah blah blah. I need a lot of room, so even just for my clothes, and then on top of that, I want to bring my gear. I can't really bring a Blackmagic. I can't really justify that. As much as I want to you shoot this for everything video, it's also very just limited for video. And as for me, I'm a photographer first and a videographer. You know, I'm still learning the ropes for both, but I'd rather have something that I can rely on that shoots both beautifully and have it not worrying about smaller things like, you know, a strap, the weight of my bag, blah blah, especially if you're traveling abroad. Of course, as I mentioned, the three things that I kind of look always for a camera. And I feel like everyone has these kind of like three things they want to hit. And for me, those are the things, again, which is functionality, budget, and size. And of course, there's other things. Like on top of that, there's three ways you can record to a Blackmagic, essentially. SD card, CFast card, or an SSD drive. Cheapest option is SSD drives. The CFast cards are expensive. 512 gigabyte CFast is probably like $300. I bought a CFast Type B, which is for the Fujifilm, and this costed me $300. That's why I'm saying 512 gigabytes CFast, not Type B, is probably the same price. So that alone puts you back even more money, especially if you're just, you know, doing this, you know, as a hobby, whatever. Would you really want to get a Fujifilm? Maybe it's something you want to save up to. $10,000 body plus $3,000 lens. Again, 15,000 give and take. Whereas for the Blackmagic, you can probably get it under 5,000 fully kitted. Below 5,000 below for sure. Especially that there's also the new Blackmagic full frame coming out. I'm sure a lot of people are trying to get rid of their 6K Pros to get the full frames. Even that also has some issues, you know what I mean? Like as much as I want to try it, and I'm sure footage on that looks amazing, but now you have to get L mount lenses, bigger, more expensive lenses. Whereas for this, the 1835, which has been a reliable lens for many years, for many videographers' careers. I'm still using it to this day. I use it with the current camera I have right now. Like for me, that's the golden lens because of the price range and the image quality that you get from it. Also, there's another thing that people overlook, ND filters, right? So ND filters are pretty much, it's just a fancy word of saying sunglasses. So off, hella bright, on. Right? You can keep your settings like your shutter speed, which is really important for mirrorless like DSLRs kind of thing. Keeping your shutter speed double your frame rate. So right now I'm shooting at 24 frames. My shutter speed is at 148. If you're shooting 60 frames, then you're shooting 128 shutter speed. But with the Blackmagic, what's great about this is, again, it's treated like a cinema camera. So it's shutter angle. You can change its shutter speed as well, but it's shutter angle, which is pretty much the same concept, but it's just different numbers. To be honest, I shouldn't be talking about this because I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. Shutter angle is just applied throughout everything. You don't have to change your shutter speed or shutter angle when you're going from slow motion to normal motion. So like if you're going for 60 frames per second, you can still keep the 180 shutter angle and it will still look normal, not choppy or not slow. Another thing the Blackmagic has is internal NDs. You don't need to get sunglasses for your camera. Was for this, the job that I did recently had a matte box with a VND in it, so I can, you know, change the ND and how strong or how weak it is. And I know I said size was like the biggest, no, not the biggest issue, but one of the biggest issue I don't like about the Blackmagic. But I mean, there's a reason why it's also a good thing to have this size, because the size of that monitor that comes with it is great. Compared to the whole body of the GFX, it's the same size of the whole body just for the screen. It also has cinema features. So this thing has this thing called false color, which for me, I think it's easier to read exposure through false color. Obviously there's also histogram, but I prefer false color, which not a lot of cinema cameras have, in my opinion. You need to get a monitor to have a false color, which again will run you a couple $100. The LCD on this has better focus peaking compared to the GFX. I tried to shoot this on manual focus and it was low-key difficult. I didn't really know what I was focusing on just because of how faint the peaking was, whereas for this I can rely on the screen to like really get what I want to get focused, essentially. You know, there are other things in this camera that I can talk about more, but to be honest, this video is not necessarily a very technical review or comparison. It's just kind of like what I like and dislike about both of these cameras. I mentioned the three things and I'm mentioning things that are kind of like overlooked. So yeah, what I like about both of these cameras is that you can actually attach many different lenses to them. So you can get a full frame lens on this and it'll look great. You can get a cinema lenses on this, it'll be great. And same thing for this. The only problem is that you both need to have an adapter. This one's an EF and this one's GF mount. You need to get a GF to whatever mount you're putting it in. So like an L mount lens, you need to get a GF to L, and same thing with this, you need to get EF to L. Is it worth, as of right now for me, it's not worth getting a cinema lens just because I have the full kit that I need, and you know, it's producing the kind of final product that I want, so I don't really need to kind of dive into that. But I mean, I do wish to get a DZO or something, but anybody want to give me that? And what's cool about this camera is that you can actually adapt lenses that are smaller than GF mounts. So of course you can see how big this is, and of course how big the sensor is. But technically I can put this lens on this and wouldn't have a crop because this has functionalities that it can adapt to any lenses. So you can attach a 35mm lenses and this will work because it has a 35mm feature in it. You can also adapt anamorphic lenses on this, which also has an anamorphic de-squeeze or squeeze on this so that it can adapt to that anamorphic. Same thing with this. I just noticed this because again, this is one of the selling features for this camera. Oh, and also I guess in the name of new technology, Blackmagic is 2019, I believe, and this is 2023. I know this came out really recent, and you know, the autofocus on this is amazing. That doesn't have any autofocus. The autofocus Blackmagic have is you press it, it'll focus to that, that's it. Doesn't have continuous, doesn't have whatever. So, you know, if you're doing talking head videos like this, I think I'd go for this camera or the XH2S because of the fact that it can follow wherever I go kind of thing, and I don't have to worry about hitting or like missing the focus. It's nice to have a still focus, but at the same time, it's gonna get really distracting if I'm out of focus and I'm still talking like this. You know, again, this video is coming from a person that doesn't necessarily work with a team most of the time. So I try to get equipment that are, again, cheap and also at the same time reliable. And, you know, I don't really have to worry about when I'm on set, because the only thing I can really think about, I mean, I'm juggling a lot of things during that time, is, you know, the shots, the direction, and clients, whoever that may be, right? I still have to talk to them while I'm still trying to do the job, and we still have to collaborate on what needs to get done. I guess all in all, that's pretty much what I talk about for this video. If you liked it, please comment, like, subscribe, whatever, and see y'all next time. Peace.